is your boy Big Rob. Welcome to Sin City Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content. Take old, boring, stale information, repackage it up in a fun and one co-host kind of way. Welcome to Vegas's #1 crypto show. I don't know if there's very many crypto shows in Vegas. I know one other one, but for a live show production, we do it the best. That's because we're the only one. But we're going international. We're taking down the big boys, so keep an eye out for us. But we got a packed show for you today. There's so much to cover. All right, SEC has some breaking news. We got some ETF news. We got some news on XRP. Also, we're going to talk a little Avalanche today. Also, we got Magic Internet Money to break down the charts as well. And then we're also going to discuss, is Michael Saylor doing something very odd? Is he now becoming a degen in the crypto space? I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. And then lastly, Donald Trump is dropping tariffs yet again. This time it's on a commodity. Which commodity is he taxing? Is it BTC, digital assets? Is it next in the crosshairs? We'll talk about that as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more on the backside of the next intro. Hola again. Well, I'm back. Hey, you know, this one co-host thing is kind of growing on me. You know, David's been out of town. If you've watched our show with regularity, then you already know that this is usually a two-man team here at the desk. But David's out of town. But I have called in the reinforcements. Our normal backup on Tuesday is Magic Internet Money, savant on the charts. He'll be joining us here in a little bit. But in the meantime, I did want to start off by saying I am going to pay close attention to the chat today. So if there's something you want to talk about, if there's some questions or perhaps a subject matter you want me to address, let me know, because Lasagna Knot says XRP is trash, which is it's a bad lasagna, bro. Bad lasagna. XRP is not trash. You know, I saw in the comments the other day that someone said that Caspa was going to reach $1 million, or no, one Caspa was going to be worth 1 million XRP tokens. He said, prove me wrong. I'm actually putting together a thesis on why that is 100% wrong, and that'll be for a standalone video on its own. Yeah, join in on the conversations today. Type in the chat. Also, we do have Rumble. We are live on Rumble as well. So if you're watching us on Rumble, also put some in the chat. We're going to make a more conscious effort to include Rumble's viewership into the show as well. All right, let's get into it. Bitcoin. It's, well, sitting at the same spot it was last week and this week and on Monday and, well, every damn day. 108,000. Well, when I say every day, it's been in this range bound for the week. You take a look at the month, been kind of range bound here as well. So really anticipating a breakout. But, you know, look no further than the 1 year chart where we've made over 50%. We've made over 2x in price since late last year to where we're at now. And so when you zoom out, charts are looking healthy. When you zoom in, nice consolidation, which we are just kind of waiting for the next big breakout. And we're at this inflection point. We're at the $110,000 mark. I know we're not quite there at this exact moment, but we're pretty much there. So testing previous all-time highs. And so we're just kind of waiting for this breakout, looking at the biggest movers today. Now, if you watched the show yesterday, you know that we had AJ from AJ Writes Crypto on the show. And interestingly enough, he gave you a trade setup on Uniswap. And so I encourage those of you to watch the show every day. Well, one, because you have money-making opportunities. And two, well, it's also entertaining. And you also get to see what badass shirt your boy gonna wear, because, you know, today I'm getting ready for the club, you know, all white. Just stay away from the cranberry and vodka cranberries when you wear all white. Just throwing that out there. But back to the charts and away from my beautiful shirt here. You do have Uniswap with a nice little breakout. Now, Uniswap is up 5% or 6% on the day. and currently at 12% on the week. You know, AJ said a lot of stuff yesterday when he was here, but he really got me on this Uniswap trade. He was kind of, you know, talking about historical charts with Uniswap. We know that it is, you know, maybe not my favorite utility token. It doesn't really have much utility. It's, you know, a governance token, which, you know, David would argue they're adding utility into the Uniswap token after the fact. But for me, I just kind of stayed away. But we have seen big rebounds. Now, this here was 2021. So if you exclude 2021, it has had some big swings. You know, went from $6 up to $14, and that was last year in March. And then yet again from $7 to $10 last year in June, and then from $7 to $17 back in December, and then, you know, it's making a pattern. It has a lot of volatility, a lot of swings, and so if ETH starts to run, which I'm anticipating that it will, if ETH starts to take off, would not be surprised to see Uniswap maybe being the best performing asset out of the ETH ecosystem, right? I know we always go to Arbitrum and Optimism, you know, and you go down the list of these ETH-based products. There are a lot of them. You know, you got AAVE. AAVE may not be the sexiest play, but you know what? It does run quite hot when you see ETH run. Now, the same can be said with Uniswap, but Uniswap is kind of like that crown jewel of the Ethereum ecosystem. You know, that's really what set ETH apart from the competition. Was one, the smart contracts. But what smart contracts did we start using with Ethereum? What was the big utility thing? The big sell was Uniswap. I remember downloading the Uniswap app, and then also having the web browser. And I remember using it and being like, wow, like I'm trading from one token to another without any centralization. And now we take it for granted. We talk about decentralization. There's a million different swap protocols. But hey, the beginning of it, you know, the one that started all of this was ETH, and it was Uniswap. And so that's still one of the largest liquidity pools, if not the largest liquidity pool. I don't have the liquidity pools pulled up, but ETH is still king in DeFi. And you know what? Uniswap is still the king app on ETH as well. And so, you know, the governance token there, it's just going to see a higher swing of volatility when you get big moves out of Ethereum. So something to keep an eye out. Also, getting back into the biggest gainers, we got one of my favorites, which is Chronos. And so Chronos here, sitting at 9 cents, something I've been very bullish on. And why have I been bullish on it? Well, let me tell you, a lot of it is off of the back that you have a U.S., you know, an exchange that markets heavily to the United States. And they have their own token. They offer staking. They have their own Chronos chain. And so the Crow token in itself is an integral part of Crypto.com. And we know that previously, in the previous cycle, we saw Crypto.com absolutely explode. And so could it happen again? I think so. I think that there's a couple things that we have yet to see pop off this bull market. One of them is gaming. We have not seen gaming take off yet. We also have not seen exchange tokens take off. We did see a little bit of a rally from the BitGet token earlier this year. There's some reasons behind that, but I do believe that this year coming up, we will see in some next 6 months, we'll see a move from both gaming side, because I think gaming will have a presence as bull market, not to mention that, you know, Avalanche, one of my favorites, we'll get into in a little bit, one of the dominant players in the gaming sector, which also has Off the Grid, very popular game, which we'll get into that in a moment as well. But gaming, looking forward to this cycle. But one that we've really not touched on a lot was the Crypto.com token, and particularly the exchange tokens. I'm telling you, there's going to be a thing, and perhaps it'll be off of the back of maybe Coinbase. Now that the SEC has laxed their regulation, they've a lot more crypto friendly. You're starting to see that they have derivatives and they're offering exchange services abroad in Europe. Could we see an exchange token come out of Coinbase? And if we do, we know that one is going to have a lot of volatility. And if the market makers get it right upon token release, then I would expect that the crypto.com token would also rally if a Coinbase token did. Now, just that's all speculation. There, not a lot behind it, but definitely was something to keep an eye on. But I did want to bring in our channel favorite. At least my favorite. I'm not sure about David because he's not here. He can't speak for him. But got Magic Internet Money joining us today. And so, Magic, welcome back to the show. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Living my best life. It's like the parents are out of town. It's the vibe in here.
Yeah, it's all right. Party.
We've all just been chilling, drinking after the show, during the show. We got the back's just filled up with our friends and family. And it's a wild party. We had to wait for David to get out of town, but
Dave's going to lose his mind when he hears
that. The party started back here. I just looked in the production room. It's getting crazy back there. Calm down. All right. So, thanks for joining us yet again. It's always a pleasure. Anything new going on with you, bro? How was the 4th of July?
Man, 4th of July was good. I did the whole family thing. Kind of kept it low key. This is the first year I didn't just blow an enormous amount of money on fireworks. And no regrets there because everyone else is going to blow them up anyway.
Yeah, I was debating because Vegas doesn't have native fireworks that make big explosions or fly in the air. We only have like sparklers and all the rinky dink ones. And so I was at the fireworks stand. That
stinks.
And they had a $500 kit. And I'm like, what do y'all sell here? And they're like, well, it's a big box. Got everything. I'm like, does anything fly? They're like, no. And I'm like,
how do you justify that?
Yeah,
It's like that scene out of Joe Dirt. Where's the good stuff?
You know what I'm saying? All right, so I'll kind of send it over to you. I know we'll probably start off with a Bitcoin chart if you don't mind, and then we got a couple narratives kind of talk through. I know AVAX has got some stuff going on, some news coming out of XRP, but maybe we want to start off with Bitcoin. I know we got a lot of people kind of wondering what direction the market's going.
Yeah, as of right now, you have a higher likelihood of making a new high than a low, just based on probabilities. It does change at certain levels, and we'll talk about that. But as of right now, you do have this monthly inside bar, and we did talk a little bit about that last month. You left the high yet again. So if you were to look at this through the lens of how many times this actually happens, it's very rare. It almost never. So when you get one of these, you can expect a new high or a new low to be made outside of these two values. And we just haven't done that yet. We front ran it. So as long as on the monthly chart, you are above about 104K, things are fine. Now, as you get a little more granular, we can start taking a look at the weekly chart and saying, okay, we know that we don't have very many weekly inside bars either. We only get about 9 a year out of the 52. So we would expect to either see a new high above this last week or a new low below this last week. Again, the EQ of this past week is going to kind of be your guide in this case. So if you were just to throw that on locally, that'll kind of tell you that if we're holding this level locally, we can expect this to probably come up and take out this prior high here. Where is that folder? And I got too many folders again. And it happens very quick for me. There we go. We'll go down to the hourly. And this is basically where you're at. You're just sitting right here on the EQ of last week and starts right here. That's our support. And as long as you're above about a 107,830, give or take a few dollars, the pressure is on to try to make a new high. That doesn't mean it's going to fly to new all-time highs right away and just go straight to 120 or anything. But, if people are looking for a direction in the market, that's how you're going to want to be looking at it. Now, the moment we do lose this, probabilities shift towards making a new weekly low which it comes in, if you recall, right at that monthly EQ. So very similar setups, and in fact, the exact same setups, just on different time frames. Whereas you have this bigger one here, so you can see there's your weekly low. Here's your previous month EQ. So if this were to lose about 107.8, give or take, and these lows, I'm expecting to see this low taken and this area of the chart being the next important region. And it is a very important region to me because when you start looking at things through the lens of time again, looking at the monthly and biweekly and the 60-day, right? So these are just the averages from the past sessions. So this is your monthly average, this is your 60-day average, and this is your 2-week average. Losing this low we just spoke about, if that occurred, you're below all of those, and your new target becomes the monthly low and the 6-month bi-quarterly average at 97. So until then, no, pressure's onto the upside. And that's just how the market's going to trade, in my opinion, just based on, if you go against that type of analysis, what you're doing is you're betting against statistics, which can work, but you're in Vegas, and we all know that eventually, if you stick with a plan and statistics, you win more over time. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the route I'm taking with this one.
So with BTC, I know you were talking about some. Either way, what I wanted to bring up was with BTC. If we were to see a breakout to the upside, and we're going to get into that
Sure.
price discovery, what's kind of the trigger event for that? Is it, because we've seen that we've came up, we've tested the all-time high twice now, more recently, or technically set a new all-time high, but we've essentially went up into this $110,000 range a few times and have yet to really break out. What would you look for that price discovery breakout that we've historically seen with Bitcoin? Is it for Bitcoin to go to, say, 115,000 and then come back down to the previous all-time high, which would be 110, and then bounce from there up? Or do you think it's just a straight shot? Because I'm in the camp where, and I'm curious to see where you're at on the Bitcoin cycle. I'm in the camp that there is more all-time highs coming, that the bull market's not topped out, and we're not at the end of the bull market here, and so, or at least the top of it. So there's going to be more price discovery. What does that look like, or what are you looking for if you were going to try to enter into a trade to the upside? Do you think just now is simply a good spot, or are you waiting for some kind of trigger event like 114 down to 110, and then maybe put one in there? What's your kind of thought process behind entering into Bitcoin?
So if I was trading the breakout at these levels, it would actually, there is some criteria that I would want to see. And it does stem off of halving data. So I track everything by time, as you know, and I've included the halving dates and election year cycles as one giant session. So like 4 years and some change.
Yes.
In this case, we would be looking at a hand calculated resistance 2 off of a 4-year average based on the halving data. So when we're doing that, you can start to take a look at like what we did in the past ones, and you'll notice that the R2s of all of those become kind of the key zones, like all around. I believe it is here, looking for 16. Where is my R2 standard and R1? And we'll get out of that and go down to the daily and weekly here in just a second. I think weekly's probably best. And I'll turn on one more, and I won't spend too much time, or I'll try not to, but it's interesting, to see how these things have interacted, that if you're going to see that like blow off top, these are going to be the levels that you want to see holding on to. And I've gone back to all the halvings, and they've been kind of similar. So you could even take this all the way back to like 2016 here, right? So we could even turn that one on and do a third one if we wanted to. What is that? That's the R250, R2 standard. That's what we want right there. Okay, so this is kind of your last major dip right here in 2016, that run up to 20K. And you can see that you actually blow through this area, but you do come back and back test it. So you want to see this area held on an expansion basis, that standard deviation 2. Same with over here. We actually blow through the area after a slight front run, come back, back test it. It's our major support up until we lead into where we are now, which is at our R2. So if we can get through this level, it may just pierce straight through to like 120. It may just do something like that. But I would expect the back test, as that's something we're very used to seeing. Um, and if we do, that's a good sign. That's a good sign for further continuation. Has been a major opportunity towards the end of every cycle. Now, that doesn't mean just because it's happened that way 3 other times, it's going to happen that way again. That's not how life works, but it's a good indication of, a barometer of, okay, if that happens again, I should be expecting that things are good. And the halving pivots that are calculated based on those dates and times, these are generally almost the exact low after the halving. You can see it's right here. It starts. We get one dip below, once reclaimed, off to the races. You can do the exact same thing going into the next one. Where's the actual pivot itself? Right here. Again, you can see here's the pivot. It's generated once above. We're off to the races. And the exact same thing has occurred yet again. So these levels for me are ones that I really worked on for a while to get almost perfect. This one was a little bit of a front run. You can see it was 73, or no, not 73, 48, 598, 86. And the low here on the BLX, which is what I used the data from, was 49, 513. So to me, it's close enough. I was within $1,000. I'm gonna count it for myself. But again, basically the major low from our consolidation. So once we're above about 114, I do start to look at things as, okay, this is in that mania phase potentially, and we can start looking towards values like 120, 130, hell, maybe even 150 at that time, but not until we see that price move above. So that's where I'm at on Bitcoin.
All right. Speaking of being looking at the charts on Bitcoin, Michael Saylor, interesting tweet today. He said, "Try BTC," and so. If you're wondering what this means, well, that's BTC and its trading pair, the Turkish lira. I could expand on the Turkish lira, and basically it's money that's been highly inflated, or at least this particular currency. So he's highlighting that. But my interesting takeaway here, I always take the headline narrative and push it to the side and try to figure out, some interesting takeaways here. And, well, Sailor's got TradingView open. And so I'm like, why does he have a TradingView app, or at least a web browser? And so, I'm just thinking, I'm like, is Sailor over here trading away? Because we know he's the big hodl, mentality, and you would never sell your Bitcoin. But, I mean, he's pretty well versed with TradingView. And so it's kind of curious.
I would imagine anyone that's as obsessed with an asset like he is has probably dabbled on TradingView, and it's probably something he does more than he should. But I mean, it is what it is.
He's a degen at heart here, or like I'm looking at it from a degen's perspective. He's on a very obscure trading pair, which is the Turkish lira, and he is historically referenced the Turkish lira before, so it's not like this is some one-off event. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting to see the TradingView window coming out of Michael Saylor's camp. It's I wouldn't be surprised if, because sometimes it's like that one couple that dates and they look like the perfect couple, and then like they leave the party and then they're at home throwing bottles and burning the house down, and it's a lot of those people that like they trick you up front. They pretend to be one person and then behind the scenes, and so maybe Sailor's hodling in public, but behind the scenes, he's a degen at heart. Perhaps putting in long and short positions on Bitcoin with the trading.
He's been hanging out with Bukele, the guy from El Salvador, who was trading from his phone last cycle.
Oh. Yeah, there's gonna be. I'm interested to see what kind of degen stories we get after this bull market's over. When we look in hindsight, like, man, could you believe? There's a big narrative on a lot of this corporate, the corporate accumulation of Bitcoin, and this like Bitcoin corporate treasury, and these Bitcoin companies coming out. That this is a potential. One of the catalysts for the unwinding of the bull market. Perhaps one company mismanages keys or gets, or just frauds customers. I think that these publicly traded companies, because of the transparency, are probably not going to fraud companies, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some private keys get mismanaged, perhaps some theft or some vulnerability happen. And you're talking to a tune of, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin essentially being jeopardized. And could that be a catalyst for, the bull market swinging into a bear market? I could see that narrative. Speaking of corporate companies getting exposure to Bitcoin, you got a new player jumping into the fray. You got a NASDAQ listed hotel chain, Moreno, is looking to get $500 million of equity into Bitcoin. They did start their first buy, and so, if you're trying to buy $500 million, why don't you start with 21 Bitcoin? So 21 Bitcoin is still nothing to sneeze at here. It is, almost $2.5 million. So, it's quite a lot. And we know that the number 21, the max supply 21 is probably the reason they did that. But something to keep an eye on there. But also, there are other companies that are getting a little bit more degen here. And so from Bit Digital, they sold all of their Bitcoin and bought $200 million worth of ETH. And so now they're holding $250 million worth of ETH. So we're starting to see that not only is big institutions coming in buying Bitcoin, but large whales and large institutions are, also dabbling into the ETH market. And so take that what you will. But I did want to shift the conversation over to the SEC. So we got a couple of big headlines coming out of the SEC. And so one, you have SEC delays the Fidelity spot Solana ETF. And so we're expecting this one to essentially pass at some point. The experts, particularly Bloomberg, who has, for the most part, been spot on when it comes to these ETF applications, whether they're going to pass or fail. They usually put a percentage or grade on it. We've seen this as high as 90%. And so the decision has been delayed. We're expecting some staking mechanisms to come in with the Solana ETF. But, a delay. We're waiting for the final deadline. At final deadline, we're expecting this to pass along with other ETFs as well. But the SEC is also looking into dropping the appeals case on XRP. So, a lot of you have probably thought like, hey, isn't this thing been put to bed? Well, there was a final judgment on the XRP case, and you know what? That went into appeals. And so one of the very few court cases that the SEC still has open. There was almost a resolution. Then Judge Torres said, "No, we're not gonna resolve this just yet." And now we have a July 10th. So in 2 days, we're gonna have a meeting on XRP, particularly from Ripple and the XRP token. And so the meeting will happen Thursday, July 10th. To discuss settling legal action. And, the SEC, they've been dragging this court case on for what seems like eternity at this point. But I will say that XRP had its last breakout once the court case was settled. And so I'll take Magic's perspective in a second, but just from the zooming out perspective, here on the 1 year, we went from 50 cents, court case was over, and we immediately ran to $2.70. We even did see a high over $3 at the beginning of the year. And could, some more news coming out of the XRP court case situation? It's completely over. There's no more litigation happening. Could we see that cause a breakout in XRP? It's been consolidating for quite some time. And so I am curious to see what you think, Magic, on XRP's chart. I'm always kind of looking for that upside breakout. During the bear markets, perhaps I'll invert my kind of my search for trade opportunities. But I think that when you're in a bull market, you know, everything's kind of moving up and to the right as far as the overall market cap. The smart move is to try to identify which ones are potential for breakouts. I think that we have a catalyst event around the corner in 2 days. We have a project that we know has a massive community and it's consolidated since the beginning of the year or since December. And so it's probably prime for a breakout. Or maybe it's a fake out. I'm curious to see what you think. What's XRP telling you on the charts?
XRP is one of the barometers I had for this bull market actually in timing. We talk about that a little bit later, but um, I am expecting higher prices on XRP, and it's a very basic chart. It's very akin to Bitcoin on the BLX from the 20K days. And I will say this is something I've been preaching since 2021, back on the old TikTok days when I was shelling those out to the masses. That we were expecting a similar setup to this, right? Like this is Bitcoin before and after it went to 20K. And you can see that, just using the yearly closures, you have a pretty big range before that massive expansion, right? XRP is no different. If we go to here, we can see that, well, it's pretty similar. I'm not going to put it on right now just because there's too many lines on the chart, but we'll delete them in a second and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But in this case, when we look at XRP, we can say that the yearly chart is giving us a pretty big level here. It's marked as a 12M SFP. And what that means is that we have not closed a yearly candle up above 196 really. So we need to see this gray box here at the 2025 open remaining support, which on a monthly basis here, we've done very well at. Your next big area is 250. And that area was more of just like a barometer for, is this thing going to attempt the 290? And that's still kind of the case, but I think if you can start living above 250 and making some ground here, you stand a real shot at trying to make a new all-time high. It needs to be above this level, though. If you go to the 3-month chart, what you'll notice is that if we go all the way back here into 2017, you have not closed a quarterly candle above $2.47, but you've been up here 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would be the 5th quarter if we can get back to this level, which I imagine we will. So, wearing out its welcome as a resistance, ideally, in an ideal world for people that are bullish on it. So, whether that is a direct reflection of the news, I can't control the news. I don't know what all the catalysts are sometimes. So, for me, I just go off of what the charts are telling me. And they're telling me that it would be very bullish for XRP to get continuation above this level and start closing monthly and quarterly candles up above 250. The yearly candle would be even better, but that's so far away. It's kind of hard to really hang your hat on that type of analysis. But this is the yearly chart I was speaking about where I said, we haven't closed above here, but we've been up here. It's just been that level that needs to be claimed. Now, when you're looking at it through the lens of, hey, this looks like old Bitcoin accumulation, it does. And it's a massive range, kind of like what Bitcoin did when it went 20K to 3K to 14K to 3K. Very similar setup. And they look almost identical, and this is the case for Forest. Actually, Forest has a pretty bold XRP. I wouldn't say prediction, but he's talked about maybe it going to like $20, I think, and that is, today people are probably more in tune with it. But if you just said that a couple years ago, only the cult like people were saying stuff like that, right? And they kind of got ridiculed. Even I was a part of that. And if you do a logarithmic scale, like where you throw on the 200% of a channel of a similar expansion like Bitcoin did, it should, well, I guess I'm gonna have to go negative with it. We'll just do that. Put you right around like 1990 if you were to do that. And that's going off of a logarithmic expansion of this consolidation, assuming you get the breakout, which you can see you are attempting to do right here and close and hold above it. So that's why that like $2 zone that was in gray when we first looked at the chart, it's right here technically still. We'll go to the weekly, you can see it. It's such an important level because when you look at this like you looked at Bitcoin, you can see there's that $3 all-time high, call it 20K for Bitcoin. This is, not $3,000, but it's the 3K low there for the Rona dump. Come back up, make the lower high. That would be like a 14K high for Bitcoin after it went from 3K to 14K in 2019. You get the higher low or the failure to rotate the range because there's too much demand. And now you are trying to hold your consolidation as a structure. And so that's the case you can make for a $20 XRP. Now, if you were looking through things through a linear scale and more of a pattern base, you would be looking at this in terms of timing out to probably, August of this year being pretty important. I believe actually that chart is here. I've got the timing on it. We've talked about it on this channel before, actually, numerous times, but it's been a long time. So, Bybit, we need Bitstamp. There we go. Got too many charts and too many folders, but it's not a bad thing. And it's underneath the harms. And we were looking at this crab right here. So this would have been your crab looking for something around $5. And you can see that we're starting to close in on that window of time. And it is a window. It's never an exact date. So this would be something where like it could be off by a little bit, it could be off by a few weeks to a month, but it gives you a general idea of, okay, if this move was symmetrical and, matched up and lined up based on this consolidation, we should be expecting this value, especially while it's holding the B point of the structure. So, which lines up nicely with our previous analysis. So I'm still bullish on XRP. There's no reason to not be. Now, if you start living below these lows here, especially on like a monthly basis, we'll go to the monthly chart real quick. You can see things start to really unravel below here. So that $2 region on a monthly closure is fairly important. And if lost, I would start to expect to see a lot of this giant God candle be reclaimed. And then we have a completely different conversation on our hands. And, it's just a swing fail of the previous all-time high. And that doesn't look good to anyone, right? But until that takes place, we have to err on the side of this trend, and the trend is up. And even on the macro level, XRP is one of the very few altcoins that on a macro level you can see actually is still making higher lows. It's just been consolidating. It failed to break out last cycle. Some people say it's from the SEC case, and that's a pretty good case for that. But to me, it was a very technical trade up here, and I remember taking it, and I remember shorting and saying that the target on this thing is going to be 29 cents, which is just a major volume point of control. And that was the bull case, was getting this trade down here. So yeah, that's XRP in a nutshell. Very, very good chart for now,
All right. Some news kind of outside of chart. This one doesn't even have a token, but I did want to just kind of touch on it. I think it's an interesting conversation, or at least a big event happening here. It's pump.fun. So if you've been asleep at the wheel of this bull market, you know that pump.fun has been one of the big catalysts behind the volume on Solana. And we saw the launch of crazy amount of meme coins. There's inundated with bots. There's meme coins all over the place. But pump.fun is having a token sale. So they're launching the pump.fun token. So they're going to have 1 trillion in token supply. 150 billion is up for sale at about a little less than half a cent per token. First come, first serve. The sale goes live on July 15th, so a week from today. And you're talking about a potential $4 billion valuation if the token price stays where it is after launch. It's $4 billion is quite a number, which would put it right around that same mark that we saw a lot of these other tokens that had airdrops or just came out kind of launch. We saw Arbitrum and Optimism. Those are kind of here in this same region or zone. And so $4 billion sounds about right for something as big as pump.fun, or at least for something as big of a headline as that. Do you pay any attention to any new token sales? I don't.
No.
I'll be honest with you. After the 2017, the coin offerings, SEO, or you pay any attention to this, Magic?
I don't even know what's going on half the time. I just live in this like little bubble in Kansas, and people are like, "You don't know about that?" I'm like, "No, man. I used to get really into alts and stuff back in like 2018 and 19 because I got into Ethereum really early. Got into XRP at 3 cents. Had great returns, obviously. But now I know better. And 2021 was fun. Like that was a good, really good bull market for alts, obviously. But
Yeah.
I've just kind of always after that, and I saw everything crashing, and I saw how many were being created. I was like, I can't keep up. One, because I just don't have the bandwidth, and two, um, it just started to look kind of sketchy. I guess there were just way too many cash grabs.
Yeah. I did want to get into a sector that's um, a little bit more utility friendly here, and a little bit more institutionally respected as well. Robinhood. So Robinhood sees a surge in demand for tokenized equities, and so we saw Robinhood send a. I'm drawing a blank on which one it was, but they had sent a tokenized stock from on Arbitrum from one account to the other, and so it was a buy and sell, and so RWAs are here, RWAs are growing, RWAs are a thing, and so Robinhood sees a surge in demand for tokenized equities, and I did want to kind of talk about one project that is a leader in RWAs, and that's Avalanche. And so Avalanche's daily transactions are way, way up. And so from April to where it is currently, we're seeing about a 5x in transactions. And you know what? It's everything is screaming that Avalanche is about destined for a breakout. This is something that was in the top 10. It has a lot of narratives for it. It's once in the top 10, it is slipping against some of the other alts, but the ones that it's losing market cap against are ones that don't really have too much going on. I would say, like, you got Hyperliquid, which has a big unlock event coming up, and so there could be a push on. Could be a lot of sell pressure coming from the Hyperliquid camp. Also, you have Leo, Sui, Chainlink, Bitcoin Cash. So there's a lot of filler in between the top 10 and Avalanche. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing jump back into the top 10, which current market cap at $7 billion. About a 3x will put it back into the top 10. And, it's maybe, as I talked about in the beginning of this show, maybe it's off the back of gaming. And maybe it's off the back of RWAs. Well, there's two things that Avalanche really, hangs its hat on as well. Both of those. And gaming being the front runner, I think, for Avalanche. But two is RWAs. And so could we see RWAs lift Avalanche out of the not trading against Bitcoin very well trend? There's a lot of altcoins in that camp, but I'm curious to see what is Avalanche looking like for you, at least on the charts there, Magic.
Sure.
Is there? I'm waiting for a breakout. Should I be concerned? No, because it's been trading down against Bitcoin, but or do you think that holding out's a good idea?
It's done some not so excellent things here recently. So this is actually a level we had on the chart, coming back to it because it was a gold pocket on a monthly swing fail. You can see we took this monthly low here, and this is what you want to see holding. And if you were to extend it over just a little bit here, you can see that it ended up becoming resistance after being closed below on the monthly. So not great. And the expectation of that was, I think I had said, if that happens, we can expect a new low, but realistically, you start looking down into almost like $12. It didn't quite make it that far. It was about $14.64. So from there, you have done something that's, not terrible. You've started trying to find support again, find that demand. And you can see that through the monthly chart here and see that the sweeps are occurring. What you don't want to see is this one on a meaningful time frame. In this case, like maybe like a week, maybe even a monthly candle below 1729. If you see that, I think you should start looking down into that, $12, maybe even $10 range again. But if it finds itself here, you've got some really clear and obvious resistances. Like you could map this one out any way you like it, any way you want to shake it. But it's give or take $22. If you can get back above 22, then you kind of have to start zooming out and saying, okay, well, what are the, repercussions of regaining $22? Has it actually changed the chart any? And you can see on the 3 month it doesn't. So for this one to have a real shot at making moves here, that 27, 24 level for me is going to be pretty important. I would want to see a recovery of that. So if it pushed up above this level, rejected, and then gave 22 up again, it doesn't do anything for the chart really, kind of like what you saw here. So we do need to see this thing coming up and putting resistance on, call it $27. And if it does, you've got a decent chance of at least another $10 up into that like 38, 39 range. And that's where things really start to turn around for this one, is above here, where it's like, okay, above here, and there's no reason why we probably won't push and challenge for a new all-time high. But for now, it's trying to find support. So you're at some support, and a bounce is probably, if it occurs, which it looks like it already kind of did here once, twice, if it occurs, you really need to kind of, I would just be cautious is all, because it may just be a short-lived bounce. You need to see this thing above $27, $28 to really do anything meaningful on the chart. So that's the skinny on it. Probably not what people want to hear, but it is what it is. But otherwise, you can see this is just a textbook downtrend. You got your highs and your lows, something like this, where you're just in a big channel, and you can see it back above here puts you in the upper part of that channel and breaking out potentially here, and that'll give you that push to all-time highs. So if someone was watching it, that's what I would look at.
All right. Interesting tariff news. And so we've seen that we're getting tariffs on different countries, and every time someone told me the other day, I don't remember who it was, but they're like, don't trade crypto while Donald Trump is awake. And so, wait till he is asleep, and then, start putting in your positions. There's that. But anyways, Donald Trump says he's imposing a 50% tariff on copper, which is interesting because we know that we can just pop these copper mines up at a blink of an eye here in the U.S. And so trying to spur the copper mines of the United States and stop importing copper, it's an interesting plan there. But anyways, we got a tariff on commodities. So we saw a tariff on cars. We saw tariffs on countries, on nations. We saw even some tariffs on internet based applications that were made abroad. Now we're seeing tariffs on copper and other commodities. It's the thing that gives me a little bit of concern here is that could we see a tariff on crypto? And I know that's kind of a stretch, but Bitcoin is a commodity, and so if you're going to tariff one commodity, what's to stop you from tariffing another? And I understand the reasoning behind this, or at least his thought process, is that he wants to create more incentives for U.S.-based companies to start up copper mining here in the U.S. and not import. But you would think at face level this would shake the markets up, and copper would sell off, and everyone would panic. And then, next thing you know, you're pulling all your LAN cables out of the closet, and you're stripping copper, And so, but,
Yeah.
Looking at the charts here, copper, it exploded up 20% at one point. It's sitting at 10% up just on the last, hour and a half. And so, it's just interesting the power that one person's tweet can have on an entire market, and something as big as copper that is and part of our integral lives. It's a lot of copper in your car and your electronics, and so could we see tariffs go over to crypto? I mean, what's kind of your big takeaway on all this? I know it's outside the charts, or if you want to talk about charts of copper, I mean, have at it. But
I think tariffs, the big impact for me on tariffs is that they impact decisions that people like Jerome Powell is going to make directly. And money printer go burr, right? Like, that's what we're all waiting for. So That is the big takeaway for me. Tariffs are going to have an initial increase on price in most things, like just across the board. There's not a ton of extensive data on them because we haven't ran them as a country for so long, like extreme tariffs like this where we're matching other countries or exceeding. So to me, when I look at it, for instance, I text this to David, and I think I was on the show with you the day that we said it, where we said Jerome Powell just doesn't like Trump, and I was like, that's actually not true. If you guys were to go to the SEP and look at that guideline on their the most recent projections for the end of the year inflation, they've actually all increased from quarter one into quarter two, and it was off the back of tariffs. And Jerome Powell is even on record of saying that the reason that he hasn't made a rate cut is because even though Trump paused the tariffs momentarily previously, he has no idea what direction he's going to go long term. And so they have to be more data driven. And so that's the big takeaway for me, is that he's over here yelling for rate cuts, but in reality, he's doing it to himself. So that's my take on him, is it directly affects the projection of inflation. And until the data comes back and proves one way or another, they have to err on that side, especially with the job market being as good as it is. His entire job is inflation and employment. So he's sticking strictly to those two things. So tariffs, I don't think they're bad. In some cases, I do think that we need to do it. It's just, I think the sweeping range that he took with it is kind of a shock. So,
Magic. I've got some breaking news. Breaking news. We need like a breaking news animation jingle. You know that thing. Finally, it's over 20 years. 20 years in the making. TSA has finally removed its long policy of remove your shoes and catch athlete's foot on your way to your next destination. This is finally over. You no longer need to take your shoes off when traveling through the airports. My God, I gotta get some sound effects. Give me a round of applause. I'm telling you, what a day, man. You know what? I think that of everything that all the bullish things that's happened this year, this might be my number one headline. No more shoes. No, the shoes aren't coming off anymore at TSA checkouts or metal detectors, whatever it is. And so, man, I cringed at the fact that, I had my bare feet on those mats that, 10,000 people walk through.
Yeah.
Because it's
I wear Crocs everywhere. I'm one of those people. I'm a Croc person. Like I have a pretty extensive collection of Crocs actually. So it's never really bothered me when we fly because, it's very easy for me on and off. But I imagine that's a pain in the butt for a lot of people.
Dude, man, I'm like a kind of a weird hygiene type of person thing. And, yeah, I know. There's always a saying: if you shower at the gym with your shoes off, you will catch athlete's foot. It's like 100% guaranteed. And so I always look at it. I'm like, there's how many people at the gym? Like maybe 100 in the gym every day, maybe 200 if it's a big gym. I just look at those lines at TSA, and I'm like, I'm definitely gonna get some kind of fungus on my feet going around here. So
I got staph my senior year after high school. I didn't get to run all summer for my freshman year of college cross country, and I gained like 20 pounds. My coach was pissed. But I got staph infection at the YMCA because I didn't wear shoes in the locker room. And that kept me from running because it like swelled up real big on my toe. I didn't realize what it was, and that kept me out of the game for a while. So yeah, no, you're right, man. The foot fungus is real.
Hey, man, leave my feet alone, bro. Magic, is a pleasure having you. I will say this: we do have a trading show about to roll in live right when we're done here, which if you just stay in the chat, you'll be redirected there. Sistine Trading is the channel partner where we do all of our trading at now. Also, I believe Alex O is manning that one, I believe. But anyway, I want to give a shout out to Alex O because today on his live stream, he was swaying his community to go and check out some of our content, particularly the Caspa video. So I got a lot of people in there watching that, subscribing to Sin City Crypto, and also commenting on that video. So thanks a lot, Alex. We love you, man. We love you. But I also love you there, Magic, and it was a good show today, man. Good show.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was good. Yeah, don't tell David. It was fun.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to get back to the party because, as I mentioned, David's out of town, so Fiesta's here. I think the Capriottis just showed up. We got some 12-packs they're cracking open. So without further ado, we're going to end this thing, and we'll see you next week, Magic. And thanks again for joining us. To all of you, we'll see you we'll see you tomorrow, and then we'll see you next week there, Magic. Until next time, let's roll. Thanks again, and
thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, see you on the back end. Later.
Cash is Cuvée. Yeah. Sin City, crypto. Everybody know what we here for. Entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in. For big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.